Hello and welcome to my review of Pets for Legion by Shawn Brink. This is my second review of a work by Shawn Brink, and a big thank you to Shawn for providing me with ebook copies to read and review. If you're still here, hello and welcome. And on we go with Pets for Legion. Now, if you're familiar with the term Legion, you know that is a group of very dark entities who certainly do not have the best interests of humanity in their mindset. Pets for Legion was published in 2021. The other novel that I had read by Shawn, Bound by Blood, was published in 2024. I'll leave a link to that review up above. I enjoyed both of the reads, and they were my first experience with what falls under Christian horror, supernatural thrillers. You can also find more information about the author at his website. I'll leave a link to that down below. And at the end of the video, I'll talk about why reading the second ebook was a different experience from the first ebook that I had read, as it's a new format to me. Typically, I read book in hand, which I just find so much easier. I have my 2 pages and I can annotate them. Just a quick heads up, there are 3 scenes involving animals in this book. 2 are relatively short. The third, with a cat, I can't specifically tell you as I skipped over that section, but I know that it wasn't very long. It's just I prefer not to read that type of thing. So just a heads up if you're going to read this story. The story itself is very fast-paced, quick-moving, and I read it in an afternoon, mainly because I wanted to know what happened with our main character, how all of these events were going to unfold, and as I said, my second experience with reading an ebook was much easier the second go around. Our story begins with our main character, Sasha James. She's begun a new position at a school. She's moved into a new apartment. Sasha's in the staff room with a teacher named Andrew Keeler, not a very nice individual, and he doesn't improve throughout the story. He was supposed to help her move into her new apartment, and of course was a no-show. They're talking, just general conversation, when suddenly a rock comes flying through the window, hits Andrew in the head, and there's a kerfuffle outside. Sasha goes running out and quickly notices there's something a bit odd about this town, as there's people all standing around as a man is about to do harm to a child and no one's doing anything. Sasha jumps into the middle of the situation. The assailant runs away, and thankfully the child is unharmed. We also get a clue as to why Sarah is recently divorced and starting over, as she makes a comment about one of the individual's physical appearance and knowing that isn't someone you try to make angry. Sasha jumping in to help this child brings her to the attention of a character named Chief. He was the one behind wanting this child harmed, and now he's decided Sasha is the one who will need to pay for intervening in that situation and depriving him of what he ultimately wanted. The individual named Chief had been bullied in high school. He's full of hate and vindictiveness and wanting revenge, which is precisely what brought him to the attention of Legion, making him the ideal individual for them to use and manipulate for their own desires, which of course is to get humans, which to them are pets. Now, Legion provided Chief with an ally in the form of Clay, who happens to be a golem and loyal to Chief and does his bidding. Clay and Chief decide that Sasha will need to be dealt with and she will become the next pet versus the child they were trying to get. Through a whole series of events, and as I say, it's a very quick moving story. As the story progresses and Sasha realizes that someone's following her and trying to cause her harm, initially she believes that it's her ex-husband Richard because their divorce obviously was not pleasant. There were issues throughout the marriage, but she discovers he isn't the one responsible through a variety of different events that occur. We also meet a police officer named Simon who becomes involved in this situation because as the individuals are chasing Sasha, she manages to get away. Simon is told by his superior officer that things are being handled and that he can go on with his regular duties. At first, Simon doesn't seem to question that, but there are other events that come up that make him begin to wonder if maybe what he initially believed isn't accurate, and he continues to be involved in the case. We also meet Xavier, who is a priest in the small town. Xavier is protecting Sasha as he knows there are people coming after her. There are different events that have occurred, and he realizes something is not quite right in the small town and things going on. Between Xavier, Simon, and Sasha, they find out what's really going on with the situation. I'm not giving away any spoilers, so you'll have to read the story for yourself. But as I say, it's very fast paced, it moves along. The events in the story from beginning to the last few pages occur over a matter of days. There are a lot of various twists and turns in the story. And here's Tiki. What I enjoyed is that in the last few pages, we jump to a year later to find out what's happened with these characters after the various events have unfolded. Personally, I found it an enjoyable read, minus the parts that I skimmed with the animals. As Shawn and I discussed, quite often animals do come up in horror stories, and sadly, more often than not, it does not go well. To me, the story is about having faith, unlike Bound by Blood, where our priest in that particular story was wavering, had faced a difficult situation, much like our priest in Revival by Stephen King. In this case, Xavier doesn't question what he believes or why he believes it, and it's his faith that makes a huge difference as events unfold. It's also a story about belief and endurance. Sasha could have given up a number of different times, but it's her strength and what she's already endured in life that makes her our ultimate heroine in the story. Again, there are a number of things that happen that other individuals may not have been able to face, but because of her past experience, Sasha knows how to get through the various situations, keep herself on track, and moving forward. It's also a story with a message about what happens to certain individuals over their lifetimes if they've experienced being bullied as children, whether that's in public school, high school, or throughout their entire school experience. It certainly doesn't mean that's going to happen to everyone who has been bullied. People deal with experiences and trauma, and yes, it is traumatic, differently. In this particular story, we see how Chief decides to deal with those issues and how he ends up becoming even more destructive and more vile than the individuals who caused the original torment for him in high school. It's also a story about courage, strength, and choices. Sasha has had a very difficult experience over the course of several years, but she was able to make the decision to take care of herself and make a new beginning, as difficult as that was. And even when she's faced with some very horrific and scary challenges in her life with these people chasing her and she's not quite sure why, she's still able to keep herself together because of the past horrors that she survived and dealt with, and able to face whatever's coming. In the character of Simon, we also see those choices. He has his personal beliefs. He has a certain opinion about one of the characters, and he finds it very difficult to believe that this individual may be responsible for causing harm to other people. But once he takes a step back and takes a look at the facts and follows the evidence, then he realizes that things are not always as they seem, and he also has to make some difficult choices. Xavier, as I've already mentioned, is well aware of his beliefs, why he stands beside them, and it's partially that strength in his beliefs that helps him face what he needs to as these situations unfold. For me, some of the main lessons of this particular story has to do with appearances, as in people with certain positions aren't always what they seem to be, and there are many things going on behind the scenes. For me, it's also a message about people who dabble with entities and certain types of things that they don't fully understand and aren't aware of, and the types of consequences that they face when they come to the realization that they've actually been used and know they weren't the one in control from the beginning. Now, what made this an easier read the second time around? That would be my handy dandy iPad. What I discovered, and sorry, that's the best I can do with the glare, is that I could actually highlight as I was reading it. So this time I was able to complete the book in an afternoon, which I very much enjoyed. The only glitch was, I guess my iPad decided I needed to take a break now and again, and it would stop, and then I had to try and figure out the page I was on. But it did help me being able to do highlights, remember the material, and interact more with it. So the same as when, and you can see some of my book murdering tools behind me, same as when I'm reading a physical book and I do highlights and write notes in the margins, it helps me to remember the material, and this was a much easier read. I enjoyed reading Bound by Blood, but silly me kept it on my laptop instead of putting it on my iPad, which would have made it so much easier. So I'm glad that I decided to do that this go around. It's still easier for me to read physical books, but I certainly understand that for authors it's much easier to provide either a PDF or an EPUB version, as they can just with a few clicks send that off to people to do a read and review. Again, a big thank you to Shawn for providing me with this opportunity and experience. I very much appreciate it. Also, check out Arron Hook and Ven's Corner to hear what their thoughts were about Bound by Blood and Pets for Legion, as they've done reviews for both of them as well. And as always, we each experience different things when we're reading a book, so it's always great to hear different viewpoints. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read either of these novels or any of Shawn's other work. If you would like to help me out, whether it's with book murdering supplies or some of my new reads, I have a link in the description box down below for my Amazon wish list. And until next time, remember, be well, be safe, big hugs, and if something's following behind your car, hope that the fingers didn't stay attached to the bumper.